Tonight, we're learning more about the attempted assassination of former President Donald Trump. Thanks for joining us. I'm Marshall Zellinger.
I'm Jennifer Meckles. The FBI is now investigating this as an act of domestic terrorism. Trump was hit in the ear during a campaign rally Saturday. He was released from the hospital a few hours later. A man in the crowd was killed. Tonight, we have learned he tried to save his family. Comperatore was at the rally with his wife and his 2 daughters. He dove on top of them when bullets started flying. Pennsylvania's Democratic Governor Josh Shapiro shared a little bit today about who Corey was.
Corey was a girl dad. Corey was a firefighter. Corey went to church every Sunday. Corey loved his community. And most especially, Corey loved his family. Corey was an avid supporter of the former president and was so excited to be there last night with him in the community.
Corey was 50 years old. 2 other attendees are recovering after they were shot at the rally as well, 57-year-old David Dutch and 74-year-old James Copenhaver. We're also learning more today about the man who made the attempt on the former president's life, 20-year-old Thomas Matthew Crooks, killed after opening fire yesterday. NBC News reports he used a semi-automatic rifle. Investigators are now looking into whether that gun belonged to the shooter's father and whether it was purchased legally. Pennsylvania voter records list the shooter as a registered Republican. Election finance records, though, show he made a small donation to a Democratic nonprofit in 2021. Investigators are still trying to look into a motive for the shooting. Today, President Biden gave a brief address, giving his condolences to the family of the man who was killed and that he's praying for a full recovery of people who were injured.
We're preparing for the president to speak again at 6 p.m. But in his first address this afternoon, he called for Americans to come together.
There's no place in America for this kind of violence or any violence for that matter. An assassination attempt is contrary to everything we stand for as a nation, everything. It's not who we are as a nation. It's not America. And we cannot allow this to happen. Unity is the most elusive goal of all, but nothing is important than that right now, unity.
Democratic Congressman Jason Crow joined all of Colorado's Democratic delegation condemning political violence following the attempted assassination of former President Trump. He has been outspoken about his concerns for another Trump presidency ever since Crow was in the Capitol during the January 6th insurrection. I talked with Crow today about rhetoric. We talked about his post on social media from last month, where he wrote, quote, "We can't forget January 6th. We can't forget Trump incited a mob to storm the Capitol. We can't forget Trump is a threat to democracy." I asked him, what did he mean by "we can't forget"?
Well, I think it's important that we recognize what's happened the last few years and what we're dealing with, right? We are in a national discussion right now about the future of our country. There will be an election in about 3.5 months that will determine which path we go. And there are 2 very different visions for that, right? So we can both condemn violence and say it has no place.
Can you see how the last part of that, we can't forget that Trump is a threat to democracy? I know there's people on the right that are saying it's language like that led to an event like yesterday.
I reject that notion. I absolutely reject that notion. You know, I have always called for peace, for us to have civil discourse. But we also need to be honest about what's at stake in this election.
Crow told me that House members were having a security briefing to be mindful of their own security. We have now heard from Crow and yesterday Congresswoman Lauren Boebert. Today, I was told Senator John Hickenlooper was not available and Congresswoman Yadira Caraveo was going to pass. This is probably the biggest event to happen while both have been in Congress. I was also told Congressman Joe Neguse was unavailable today. We got no response from Senator Michael Bennet, Congresswoman Diana DeGette, and Congresswoman Brittany Pedersen. The questions we want to ask our lawmakers are unique because assassination attempts are rare. Perhaps the most memorable of recent times still requires us to go back 43 years, the attempt on President Ronald Reagan's life. 9 News reporter Janelle Finch spoke with a public policy expert to put this attempt on a former president's life in the context of American history.
46 presidents, 4 have been assassinated. Former President Donald Trump nearly became the 5th.
The attempt to assassinate Trump has really heightened that tension, the stakes of this campaign.
Fritz Mayer is the Dean of International Studies at DU. He says despite the more than 40-year gap from Ronald Reagan's attempted assassination, Saturday's shooting isn't a complete shock given this election cycle.
It's a moment where we are we don't talk about we. It's us and them. It's really sharply divided, and to a point where it isn't in some ways surprising.
He anticipates it'll continue to impact the presidential race.
He will arrive at the convention having not only survived this attack on him, but in the moment showing some courage, punching the air with his fist, apparently mouthing the word fight. It will energize his campaign even further.
Mayer says this violence will only add to the markers of how the world looks back on a historic year in politics.
This adds to the perception that we don't have our act together and makes it much more difficult for America to lead in the world.
Mayer says where this shooting happened could also have an impact on the Biden campaign. He says Pennsylvania is critical to a Biden win, and this could have an effect on Pennsylvania voters, causing Biden to lose the state. In the studio, Janelle Finch, 9 News.
Janelle, thank you. We are hours away from the start of the Republican National Convention Monday morning, with heightened security, of course. Today in Milwaukee, people spotted helicopters flying overhead, tall fencing going up. Thousands of Republican supporters are traveling for the convention, including former President Trump himself, of course. Traffic cameras caught his plane taking off from Newark this afternoon. We will continue our coverage of this attempted assassination on the former president throughout this hour and on 9news.com.
NBC News will also have special coverage coming up at 6 p.m. We know there is interest in what is happening in Colorado, the heat, the wildfire risk that we saw yesterday, and that is where we are going to turn our attention right now.
So let's start with a live look outside at Denver this afternoon. Another day where we beat the record for high temperature, 101 degrees today, breaking the daily record set back in 1878. Lauren, just a few years ago. Pretty toasty.
Yeah, and you're taking my job. That's literally what this says behind me.
Back to us.
Well, let's do the rest. The record low, which we're not going to hit, that's going to stick around from 1952. Yep, 1952.
Yes,
what else can I take from
Correct, yeah.
Let the woman do her job.
Hey, I'll sit back. Well, yes, we did reach a high of 101 degrees today at DIA, and yes, that did officially break our existing record high. That was last set in 1878 of 100 degrees. We were expecting this, but the good news is we will see temperatures slowly start to cool down as we make our way through the rest of the week. Elsewhere this afternoon, we saw lots of upper 90s and triple digits across the Front Range and Eastern Plains. Same goes for the Western Slope. The high country was nice and warm as well. 80s, 70s, low 90s up in the mountains there. Now, as we take a look at our HD Doppler radar, we're still watching for those very spotty but scattered showers and storms pushing in from the west and now making their way through northern portions of the Front Range and into the Eastern Plains. You can see a large storm cell that's just pushed its way through Sterling, making its way eastward as well. Most of us will stay pretty dry, but you can't rule out a couple of light, spotty, brief showers and storms, and then some of those storms colliding across the plains, becoming a bit bigger as they make their way out of Colorado this evening. So coming up in my full 7-day forecast, we're going to talk more about the fire danger threat that's this evening and even into tomorrow. We will see temperatures start to cool this week. We'll also see several chances for those afternoon and evening storms. I'll have details on all of that for you just ahead.
Right now, parts of South Perry Park Road is closed in Larkspur after a deadly crash there today. Douglas County Sheriff's Office says a motorcyclist collided with the truck and died near Toma Road. Investigators say they will be on this scene for several hours, cleaning up the accident site. Denver police are looking for a 14-year-old today. They say shot and killed a man last week. Denver police believe Stephen Marquez, who goes by Esco, is armed and dangerous. They say he shot a man who tried to intervene in a disturbance at 29th and Larimer, again, last week. If you know anything, please call Crime Stoppers.
Denver City Council tomorrow will have its final vote to put a question on the ballot, which would allow city employees collective bargaining rights. Supporters of collective bargaining gathered outside of the city and county building last week and celebrated when city council advanced it with just one more vote to go. If council passes it tomorrow, Denver voters will decide the issue in November. A week from tomorrow, Mayor Mike Johnston will deliver his first State of the City address. It will be at the Paramount Theater. Normally, this speech highlights what the mayor believes to be good over the last year and expands on promises for the next year. And if it's anything like previous mayors, we'll have a chance to ask Johnston questions after the speech is done.